Morgan, here are copies. Make yourself comfortable. Thank you, Junior. Thank you, Junior. To the shit last time. The whole thing? You could do triple speed. Double speed. I tell people double speed was created for me. B'shvili nivra ha'olam. Okay, so let's continue. Thank you for the copies, Rabbi Nechemia. Today's class is dedicated by Anat Bravman to increase Avas Yisrael and to strengthen the spiritual and physical safety of our Jewish people. Amen. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Anat. We truly appreciate it, and amen on your blessings for all of us, b'toich Klal Yisrael. So last class, we began the new Maamar that was said by the Rebbe on Yud Aleph Nissan Tovshin Lamed Daled, the 11th of Nissan 1974, a few days before Pesach. And it began on the passage of the Haggadah, which is a Mishnah in Pesachim, B'chol Dor V'dor Chayav Adam liras atzma kilo yatzam Mitzrayim. That in every generation one ought to see themselves as they left Egypt. And he explained that even though the halacha is that this is an obligation for the 15th of Nissan, for Pesach, in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe adds and explains that really it refers to not just a Pesach mitzvah, but really every day. B'chol Dor V'dor, B'chol Yom V'yom, as he adds in chapter 47 of Tanya. And this is consistent with the Mishnah that tells us that you have to mention Yitzias Mitzrayim every day, and not just by day, also by night, and not just in this world, but even L'Maisa Mashiach, as we also say in the Haggadah. And that means that Yitzias Mitzrayim is experienced on 4 levels. There's the original Yitzias Mitzrayim that happened in the year 2448 since creation, when the Jewish people left Egypt. That's number 1. There's the Yitzias Mitzrayim that we commemorate since then every year on the anniversary. And that's with Seder, with Pesach, Matzah, Marer, Bavur Zeh. There's the Yitzias Mitzrayim we experience every single day, even though we don't have the physical Matzah and Marer, but it's with the spiritual Matzah and Marer. And then there's the Yitzias Mitzrayim that we experience when Mashiach comes, which that's a Chiddush, because l'chayra, the revelation then will be so intense. The Zohar says that the wonders then will be wondrous even relative to Yitzias Mitzrayim. It will be astonishing even relative to the extraordinary wonders of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Still, there's a mitzvah to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim. Then, and mentioning doesn't just mean mentioning, like, why not? Remembering is something that you internalize. It affects you. It impacts you. It adds something. It creates an effect. It has an impact on the soul. So in order to explain all of this, he began explaining what Mitzrayim is. Mitzrayim literally means Egypt. But like every word in Lashon Kodesh, it has a meaning. It's not just the geographical place that it's called Mitzrayim. And the word Mitzrayim means Meitzarim Agvulim, which means restrictions. When a person is in a state of, when a person is in a restricted state, the person is in a place of Meitzarim Agvulim. I'm confined. I'm, so to speak, stuck in a box or in a structure that keeps me put, and the person doesn't feel the ability to emancipate themselves from it. That's the definition of Mitzrayim. This can exist on so many different levels. He says, but where it begins is, where does it begin? It begins in what we call the Tzimtzum Harishon. The Tzimtzum Harishon, the first Tzimtzum that Arizal discusses as a prerequisite for all of existence, for all of creation. Or as the Gemara puts it, first came darkness and then light. First the goats, then the sheep. Vahi erev, vahi vaiker. That darkness, what is it? That darkness is the darkness of Tzimtzum Harishon. Because Tzimtzum represents the truth that the universe is built, it's predicated on the perception that there is a vacuum, a chalal, a vacuum, an empty space that is devoid of Ein Sof, of infinity. Infinity is the antithesis of Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is when the person suddenly finds themselves in a space of restrictions. I'm confined. The person's energy or creativity or soul is obstructed. The first beginning of that on the highest level is the Tzimtzum Harishon. The Tzimtzum Harishon create the first Mitzrayim, even though there you're talking about, it's not Mitzrayim down here, but that's the origin of Mitzrayim. After after a long evolutionary process called Ishtalshalus, lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, where the energy gets restricted and filtered and condensed and limited more and more, it ultimately results in stronger limits until you have Mitzrayim down here, until you have the physical Mitzrayim. And the same is true in each person's life. And what this teaches us is, one of the things it teaches us is, when a person looks at their own Mitzrayim, and everyone is a Mitzrayim in one way or another, whatever that means in a person's life. There's those things that we need liberation from. It doesn't begin with the Mitzrayim I'm looking at. It begins with a much deeper and more subtle Mitzrayim. That is the origin of the Mitzrayim I'm living in. The Mitzrayim, like he says, like the Rebbe said, how is it possible? This explains how can there be a concept of Mitzrayim and Eretz Haaretz. It doesn't begin with Parei's Mitzrayim. It begins with a Mitzrayim in holiness, because everything begins in Kedusha. And then the distortion in Kedusha, or at least the apparent distortion, results in the actual Mitzrayim. So in every person's life, I'm looking at a Mitzrayim. It's more than what I'm looking at. And why is that important? Because you don't only want to deal with the symptoms, you want to deal with the source of the symptoms, because that's how you really heal the symptoms. If I can go back to the origin of the Mitzrayim, and you see it in a person's life. Sometimes a person lives in this whole world, but it's really based on a thought that they experienced at some point in their life, but that thought went in deep. And now, my whole life is based on that thought. And that thought was a thought of Mitzrayim. That thought was the thought that I am detached from Ein Sof. I'm separate. I'm broken. I'm alone. And there is a reason how that Mitzrayim came into my head. And that's what I need to be able to nip in the bud. That's what I need to challenge. Because all the other Mitzrayims are just, the domino effect. It may be, the domino number 1,000, It really, what's the word? It followed its course. But it goes back to that Mitzrayim, that Tzimtzum.
Can you say that?
Yeah.
The original Mitzrayim, Hashem made room for us to
Yeah.
in his life. So our Mitzrayim now is where Hashem is actually making room for us. Whoever broken it, whoever, and we can connect to us.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. And it also means that even in the highest level, there's still a Mitzrayim a person is facing. Because Mitzrayim is at the beginning of existence. In other words, to live means to confront Mitzrayim. It's not like, I'm this crazy guy who's dealing with stuff. No. To be alive, to exist, means that you're confronting adversity. Birth is a declaration that, birth is a tzimtzum. And the birth of existence is a tzimtzum. So to confront existence, to live, to fully live means to face the tzimtzum, to look at the tzimtzum. And when I look at it, I face that adversity. The beginning of adversity is the tzimtzum, even though it's a very lofty form of adversity, obviously. But every person, even on the highest spiritual levels, faces that. That's the beginning of Mitzrayim. On this we say, Es ha'olam nasam belibam. The world exists in our heart. So when a person makes that shift inside themselves, it has a ripple effect in the world, and it has a ripple effect in all the worlds. So when a person finds in themselves the courage, the resilience, and the awareness to be able to transcend their own tzimtzum, this has the ripple effect of healing the tzimtzum. Because what was the purpose of tzimtzum? The purpose wasn't to restrict. The purpose is Geulas Mitzrayim, to go out of Mitzrayim, to be redeemed. But now the redemption is much deeper because it transforms the Mitzrayim as well. Before there was a tzimtzum, there was no tzimtzum. There was nothing else. There was no otherness. There was no limit. Once there's a tzimtzum, it's not just we go back out of the tzimtzum, we go back to pre-tzimtzum. Something much deeper is accomplished. And that is that the tzimtzum itself is transformed. This begins within a person's own life. And that's why we say in Krishma, V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, B'chol levavcha, U'b'chol nafshecha, U'b'chol ma'idecha. B'chol ma'idecha is from the word ma'id, is the ability of a person to know that anything that defines me, the word definition, the word limitation, is already something that doesn't capture the truth of who you are. In other words, the soul yearns for a love that's b'chol ma'idecha. That's its natural DNA. Its natural DNA is that it's purely infinite. It came into a place of tzimtzum, but it's not a product of it. That's why open yourself up, not just to your heart and to your soul, but to your maidecha. And as he puts it practically, I don't live based on calculations that a world makes for me, that neighbors make for me, that my coping mechanisms make for me, my animal consciousness makes for me, or even the intellectualism of my divine soul, which are all different levels of tzimtzum. And again, what paradigms do I, but very often my life is a result of a certain paradigm. And that paradigm is called Mitzrayim. And that Mitzrayim I need to be able to challenge. And this takes a lot of courage. You have to ask yourself, what is my Mitzrayim? What are the paradigms? What are the boxes that I'm fitting into? When a person is living, for example, with a lot of fear, or a lot of guilt, just to give a practical example, or a lot of insecurity, or a lot of anger, or a lot of resentment, or disconnected, there's a Mitzrayim. It was born from somewhere. Not the natural state of the soul. Even though it feels that this is who I am. You like me? Some people say, this is who I am. It's not who you are. It's who I became in order to survive. I don't know that there's anything out of Mitzrayim. Yeah, I was born a slave. We're not blaming anybody. Jews were born into slavery, and when Moshe said, it's not your place, they couldn't listen to me. It was so hard to breathe, and they were working so hard. It's like, I'm busy surviving, Moshe Rabbeinu. Don't talk to me about leaving Mitzrayim. There's no such a thing. You have time, fine. You're on vacation, so we want to talk about good. Some people work for a living. But what does that mean? But that's what he's saying in every person's life. In every person's life, just to be able to see this is Mitzrayim. No, it's not organic. It's not who you are. It's maybe who I became. It's maybe who I think I am. But that thought itself is Mitzrayim. Right? This is who I am and this is who I think I am. And who I am is a result of who I think I am, because every existence is a result of inner processes that cause it. Every emotion is a thought. There's no emotion without a thought. There's a thought there, always a thought there. I may not see the thought, right? It's very hidden. I just feel I'm angry at you. I'm just angry at you. Or whoever that person in your life is, usually somebody close. But that anger is driven by something, by a shame, by a thought, by a deep disappointment. And deep down there's a Mitzrayim I'm living in. So when we say leave Mitzrayim every day, it's one of the most important mitzvahs. Well, I left Mitzrayim yesterday. It was yesterday. Today there's also a Mitzrayim. And it could be today's Mitzrayim is much more subtle. Yesterday's redemption becomes today's exile. I peeled one layer of the onion, which is amazing. But first of all, sometimes it comes back. You got to do it again until your brain really gets used to the fact that we're not living in Mitzrayim anymore. And sometimes I'm actually confronting something deeper. Good question. That's a good question. It sounds like an impossibility. That thought itself is a product of Mitzrayim. So yeah, you're right. You're right. It's an impossibility. Like, what do you want? What do you want? So you asked me to start flying because I'm a bird. I'm not a bird. I'm a human being.
That in itself is also the idea of, okay, one day everything's going to be fixed. It's also the idea of it's a process.
Of course it's a process.
That's not impossible.
Right. That's really the point. If I approach it from a place of ego, which is the biggest Mitzrayim, then it's like, this is impossible. It's like, it's like tomorrow you're being transformed. If I approach it with a process of authenticity, of vulnerability, then it's a privilege, it's an opportunity, it's an invitation. It's not like, now I'm going to leave Mitzrayim also, like I'm going to take control of liberation too. Liberation means I'm not going to take control. I'm actually going to let go. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not like, okay, it's on my to-do list, I'm leaving all Mitzrayim. So no, get it off your to-do list. The to-do list is the source of all the problems. I'm going to control this process also. I'm not going to control anything. The need to control is a product of being in Mitzrayim. A slave needs to control everything because that's true. To achieve anything, we need goals, we need tasks. But the approach to it can be in two ways. One is with a sense of control. I'm talking about control in the sense that I have to control the outcomes, I have to control the results, I have to control the people around me, I have to control what's coming up. I'm not sensitive to the journey. The journey itself is essential is part of the destination. It is the destination in many ways, but it continues. Yeah, there's a destination, there's another destination. We have it even in work. If a boss is trying to control the employees, rather than realize we're on a journey together, bringing out the best in each other. And of course, I want to look at the results. You want to make money, you want to have checks and balances, you want responsibility. But the environment is one that's not manipulative. It's not even manipulative of myself. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not here to exploit anybody. I'm not here to exploit myself. It's being a channel. It's dangerous. if I become naive and vulnerable and surrender to other people's manipulation. But it's not dangerous if a person is in control of that. I don't need to control outcomes in the sense that I can't control outcomes. I could show up the way I could show up with the best version of myself and help other people do that. And that itself is the greatest success. And then there's a serenity there. You're thinking that you've dealt with sharks who are aggressive. Yeah?
I mean, also, in order to achieve, you need to focus. The company needs to be focused. In a way, you are in charge of your vision and mission, so everybody has to be focused. Because if it's like...
Focus is very good.
But in a way, you're exerting your control to make everyone think in a certain way.
So I'm exerting a leader needs to exert their leadership in order to be able to set an agenda and help people see that agenda and be inspired by that agenda. That's the powerful. But deep down, I have to be able to do that in a way that in my deepest self, I'm not trying to control. Because if I am, I become a very deep slave.
You're not. I mean, you wake up every day, say, you want to show
So that's it.
the right thing.
So when I could stand in a place of gratitude, and humility, then it's a different type of leadership.
Even if I can't fully identify how my Mitzrayim looks like.
That's a good question. It's probably hard. In order, you're asking, can we go out of Mitzrayim if we can't identify what it is? I think we probably have to identify what it is. Because if I can't identify what it is, how do I know what to leave? Think about it geographically. If I don't know where Egypt is, how can I leave Egypt?
Follow Moshe Rabbeinu.
Huh?
Follow Moshe.
Okay, if Moshe Rabbeinu says that's true. Sometimes you have a person in life, Moshe Rabbeinu says we're going, and you follow him, right? You could have that trust. V'aminu b'Hashem v'Moshe avdai. Like, you know that Moshe has your back and he wants you out of Mitzrayim. But on some level in each of our lives, I need some awareness, this is where I'm getting stuck. Because if I don't do that, if I don't have any of that awareness, I don't even have Moshe Rabbeinu telling me what's Mitzrayim, so then I could start calling Mitzrayim Eretz Yisrael. Exile becomes redemption. I don't know the difference anymore. I'm so used to it, there's nothing else. This is the only thing I know. So when a person realizes that the tzimtzum in their own life is not the destination, it's a journey, their soul is essentially liberated from it, that's the avodah of b'chol moedecha. And as he puts it here, it's not, number one is that my soul is not stuck in the tzimtzum. Number two is the tzimtzum that was given to me in order to transform it. It's not just you're not affected by it. It was given to you to transform. And the transformation begins inside. And the transformation inside affects it on every single level. And that's where he said, and this was the last point we made, that the Baal Shem Tov teaches, right? That the world is created every moment and recreated every moment. The ultimate vision of Mashiach is v'nigla kvoid Hashem v'roch habasa yachtav ki pi Hashem diber. That the mouth of Hashem speaks, which means everything is being spoken into existence every moment. So the ultimate chemistry of every created being is the divine energy, the Kipi Hashem Diber. So then he says, when a person starts living with that paradigm, with that state of consciousness, now I don't see the world as a limited place, just as a place of tzimtzum. Rather, I see, as he puts it, the Pi Hashem that creates the limitation. You see that the limitation itself is a creation by Hashem. If the limitation itself was a creation by Hashem, it's not an ultimate limitation. It's an expression of infinity. If I see the limitation as something separate, as something self-contained, or to put it simply, I see my obstacles, or my jails, or my blind spots, or whatever stuckness I'm dealing with, I see it as a self-contained reality that has its own power, then it's powerful. I'm stuck. But if I could see the Pi Hashem Diber, just look at the physical world, everything is limited. But the limitedness is only an issue of perception, because it's a divine limitation. If it's a divine limitation, it's really an infinite limitation. And you see this in science and physics. The more science and physics progresses, the more we see that whatever we thought was limited and defined and in a box, really, if you go to a deeper level, you'll see that it's infinite. The whole field called quantum mechanics, which is a chiddush of our generation, and some of the greatest scientists disagreed with it. Einstein famously said, God doesn't play dice with the universe, and he adamantly argued with some of the basics of quantum mechanics because it's freaky, to put it simply. Basically shows you, we thought, we have control, there's a predictable pattern, and at some point you see there's so much paradox. Subatomic particles move clockwise and counterclockwise simultaneously, which doesn't make sense. There's something called Schrodinger's cat. The cat is dead and alive simultaneously. Light is a particle and a wave, which is a paradox, and it's both, and it happens together. Nothing even has a particular space, it's only a probability. In other words, the deeper you go into limits, you suddenly touch something that's not limited. Like Maamar and Einem and Amid, it says about the Aron. It had a measurement and it didn't have a measurement simultaneously. When everybody learned the Gemara in Maseches Yoma, Daf Chafalav, it looks like, okay, another statement in Gemara. But today, essentially, we know what the Gemara is saying about the Aron is just the truth about every single creation. By the Aron, it came out even in the surface. By the Aron, quantum physics was not quantum anymore. You understand? It's a Moed Dekinyan. The Gemara says, Makamar and Einem and Amid. There was a place, but it didn't have a Makam. What's my point? My point is, the deeper you go into the limits, everything in the world is limited. It has a medid, it has properties, it has its chemistry. If you go deeper to the Pi Hashem, it's a divine limitation. So it's infinity expressed in limitation. And whenever infinity is expressed in limitation is not an authentic, ultimate limitation. It's just the way infinity is expressed. So he says, that's the avodah. Ki Pi Hashem Diber. A person realizes that every limit in my life is really infinity expressing itself that way. So then it's just an opportunity to bring out your own infinite greatness. Now it's hard because the limit doesn't say this. The limit says you're limited, you're limited, you're limited. You're limited. This is impossible. There's an old anecdote that a teacher once asked the students to describe what they would like to be when they get older. And everybody should write it on a paper. So one boy wrote he wants to be a policeman, another boy wrote he wants to be a fireman, he wants to run the fire department, and one other person wanted to be a soldier, and another person wants to be the president of the United States, though today it's not such a compliment. And another person wants to do this and this, and one girl wrote, I want to be possible. So the teacher said, what does this mean? So she said, my mother always tells me you're impossible. So one day I want to be possible. There's a sadness to the story, but there's a truth to the story, right? And that mother may sit inside of me, you're impossible. Or this is impossible. One day I want to be possible, I don't want to be impossible. That voice, I'm impossible, can be a very powerful Mitzrayim. Okay, so now let's continue. We're holding Perek Dalet. The page is Reish Ayin Bais, Ayin Reish Bais. They put Ayin Reish Bais because I guess it shouldn't be Ra Reish Ayin. Okay, so the last line, Perek Dalet. You see chapter 4. V'zeh gam hashekasuv. This is also what it says in Tehillim. It's in Tehillim Ayin Gimel, Tehillim Kapitel Ayin Gimel. The pasuk says in Tehillim, Kol she'eri levavi tzur levavi v'chelki elakim la'olam. Very famous pasuk in Tehillim. David HaMelech speaks and he says, Kala. Kala in Hebrew, like the word kala. The word kala means yearning, like kol sanafshi. Nichsefa v'gam kol sanafshi. My soul yearns, pines, craves. That's kala. The word kala is connected to that. In Yiddish, it's called segeit ois. There's There's a very profound ichlechze. I search for you, I pine for you, I aspire for you. So he says, Kala, she'eri. She'eri is my body, my flesh. The flesh is called she'er. Ulavavi is my heart. So both my flesh and my heart, which represents my passion, my emotion, Kala, they yearn, they desire. It's a strong taiva, it's called Kala. Tsur levavi v'chelki. What is the rock? Tsur is the rock. Tsur Yisrael, right? Tsur levavi, the rock, the starkheit of my heart. V'chelki, and my lot in life, my part in life is Elikim, is Hashem la'olam forever. What's David HaMelech describing here? So the Rebbe says he's describing, this was his experience of Yetzias Mitzrayim. The experience of Yetzias Mitzrayim is you realize what you really are looking for in life. Everybody's looking for something. I'm looking, what am I looking for? What am I looking? So very often, because a person is passion, right? When there's no passion in life, there's no life. Life is passion, life is life. Life is vitality. Life, there's a fire burning. What does that passion attach itself to? What is it attached to? What am I passionate about? Am I passionate about my coping mechanisms to make sure they survive? In other words, am I passionate about staying in Mitzrayim and I'll do whatever it takes? Or am I passionate about living who I really am? You're smiling because, as though it's so easy, right? But this is the Nekud of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Sometimes all my creativity, or much of my creativity, is invested in making sure I stay in Egypt. And I'm smart, so I do it brilliantly. Because that's what a brain does. A brain is very, very smart. Everybody's brain is brilliant. So when I'm only in touch with my nefesh habahamis, with my animal consciousness, the key is survival and whatever it takes. And it needs passion too. When a person has passion, even in things that are destructive, addiction and all these things, and even not addiction, but everyone in their own little passions, it's using my passion, but it's enslaving my passion to something that's not leading me to my promised land. We need passion, and something is going to give me passion. But the question is where that passion is coming from, and that's what David HaMelech is describing here. He's describing what's my passion, what's my tainug, what's my tshuka. Tshuka is desire, kilyan is craving, tainug is bliss. It's a lakus. It's the truth, it's godliness, it's oneness. Umedayik, the word that he uses is kala sheiri levavi. Kepirush Rabbeinu Avram ben Ezra, Raiv is Rabbeinu Avram ben Ezra. The Ben Ezra says, sheiri zehaguf ulevavi zehanefesh. Sheiri is the body, the Ben Ezra says in Tehillim, and levavi is the soul. Hine sheiri levavi haguf vehanefesh em esli from the kala. It's not just something in the soul, it's also the body. This is what the body is looking for. The body wants that bliss. As a shtein, they put it, the Rebbe said, he spoke, the Maamar was in Yiddish, but usually it's written in Hebrew, but here they put it into Yiddish. As a shtein in an oizgus, un an oizgaing lahavaya. Those who understand Yiddish appreciate the words, right? As a shtein in an oizgus. You know what an oizgus is? The base was an oizgus is? Oizgus is like, oizgegossen, right? It's like an overflow. Like you just, like the soul, like it melts. You know, there's moments that your soul just melts, the body melts. It could only happen in safety. If there's no safety, there can't be oizgus. Like, I'm not melting. I'm going to retain my boundaries. Kala is like a real kala. A real kala is about safety. Right? She can fully let go, exactly. And I'm not going to let go if a knife is coming in from the other direction. And what that knife looks like, we all know. That's my Mitzrayim. And I'm not going to let go. I'm going to be very, very defensive. And maybe my entire life is going to be invested in protecting those defense mechanisms. So I'm extremely passionate. What am I passionate? I'm passionate in making sure that nobody gets into my life. And it's not about blaming. You know, when we go into a blame game, that's also Mitzrayim. You know, Mitzrayim is very, very clever. Like, it'll do whatever it needs to survive. Parai is very smart. He needs to keep you in Egypt. You know what I mean? If one thing doesn't work, something else will work. You know, if one security gate doesn't work, we'll have another security gate. So at one of the highest levels of Mitzrayim is guilt, blame, because that looks like redemption, you know? Somebody once said the definition of a Jew is that if he doesn't feel guilty, he blames himself. I'm feeling so happy. Why am I feeling happy? It's not horrible. It's horrible. How can I be happy? You know what's going on in the world? You know what's happening in Iran? What are you happy? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Be miserable and you're going to help the Jewish people that way. It looks very spiritual. I'm a bad person. I blame myself. Look how bad I am. Oh, now I'm holy. It's not holiness. V'haraya, what happens the next time? What happens a few minutes later? I'm probably doing something destructive. I'm blowing up. I'm getting angry. I'm doing the wrong thing. It's not bringing out your spiritual, it's not bringing out your creativity, your love. So we have to understand where this passion is coming from. So now it's not about blaming myself, but it's about identifying my Mitzrayim. I'm not letting go. I'm not going to let go. How can I let go? The oizgus to Hashem can only come. David HaMelech, it's fascinating. When you see Tehillim, you see that David HaMelech had a place of safety. And it wasn't, and he didn't have people, he didn't find safety from a lot of people because everybody tried to kill him. He says his mother abandoned him, his father abandoned him, his brothers abandoned him, and then finally he got married and his father-in-law became his enemy. And he was the king, so, you know, good luck with that. If you read Tehillim and you understand what it says, you could see how he identifies the lack of safety in the world, but he has a place of refuge. And in that place of refuge, he completely lets go. And that allows him to come back to the world, so to speak, and deal with people in a different way, because he can deal with himself in a different way. Nobody can ultimately give me that security. We want other people to give it to us. We have to be able to find it in ourselves. There are those who were lucky, Baruch Hashem, and they got it at a very young age. They got that safety. They got that solid foundation, and then they could let go. Because when they let go as a baby, and every baby lets go, because every baby is so vulnerable, they got the unconditional embrace rather than the opposite message. But if I didn't get it, and unfortunately there's many people who didn't get it, we often develop an entire coping mechanism based on separation and loneliness and brokenness. We don't know this, but it comes out in marriage usually, where it wreaks havoc because a person can't really connect. If I cannot be connected to myself in that way, I can't create that connection with somebody else. I can't become a source of safety for somebody if I'm not a source of safety for me. You know what do they say on the airlines, right? Put on your mask before you put on anybody else, before you put on your children's mask. If you're not breathing, if you're choking, how are you going to give oxygen to somebody else? So it's so important for the person to be able to find that safety. Huh? Was sagst du? Within themselves, yeah. This oizgus, this ability to let go, this is the natural need for connection. Real connection is letting go. Connection is not like, you know, you ever saw that cartoon? They have two people in cages, like a husband and a wife in cages, and they're looking away from each other. His back is facing her back. And inside these big bodies is a little child, and the two children are looking at each other and like wanting to connect. You ever saw that? It's a very, I think you sent it to me, right? It's two adults in cages. Their backs are to each other because they're in a fight. I'm in my cage, you're in your cage. But as that's happening, there's two little children inside of their bodies, and they're looking at each other longingly, like, you know, let's just go play in the sandbox. Let's just go play basketball. But the adults will know. And it's really what happens, you know? It's little children who are really looking for safety. And now, but I'm 50 years old, so I'm not going to tell you I'm a little child. I have to be an adult. So we develop philosophies and mechanisms and sophisticated patterns to be able to maintain our Mitzrayim. But really the little child just wants to let go. But I'm afraid. You know, fortunate is the adult who can always be a little child, or at least can always listen to the little child and can always watch it. So David HaMelech in Tehillim, you could see that he's a child. He remains a child in the most intelligent sense of the word. He always retains that innocence and that purity that the child needs. You know, in the ancient world, the child was only seen as a hachana to become an adult. And even today, it's like, as a kid, he's a baby, like, grow up. So the first 10, 15, 20 years of your life, it's just to grow up. Chassidus says the opposite, and today in our world, everyone is seeing how true it is. No, it's the opposite. Al tigui b'meshicha elu tenekel shabes rabban, right? It's the children where that's the key. It's like the seed of the tree. The adult is essentially manifesting the child. V'haraya, if I was never a child, I'll never become an adult. If I was a child, I can actually become an adult. If I was never a child, I'm always going to be a child because I'm looking to be a child. It's only a child who can be an adult. When a child is a child, then you can actually grow up. Because if growing up means I could really connect, I have to be a child. I have to have that safety that the child gets. If not, I could be 60 years old, but I'm still 3 years old. You know, give me attention. Whatever I'm looking for, my kinna, my taiva, my kavod, every person in their own way. So these are the words here. It says they stay in an oizgus, in an oizgang. 2 words. Oizgus is like you pour yourself out, and an oizgang is almost like you expire. There's a melting away. There's a letting go. La Hashem. V'gam kala miloshen tainug. Kala in Hebrew means craving, kala, kol sanafshi, and it also comes from the word tainug, kilyoin nefesh. It's like the bliss. And the two are connected because real bliss is something that is overwhelming. You melt in it. So kol sheri levavi. V'tam hadavar. David HaMelech says, why is this? Mepnei shetzur levavi v'chelki. Was is sein Herz? Und was ist die Starkheit von sein Herz? Und was ist ein Chelik ba'olam hu elikim? See, this is how a person experiences Hashem. We always talk about how people experience God. What does he experience Hashem? Tzur levavi. What is my heart? What is my strength? Tzur is a rock. What is my heart? What is the strength of my heart? And what is my part in the world? That's elikim. In other words, for David HaMelech, Hashem meant all the truth, the deepest truth of a person, the deepest love and beauty and grace in the world. That is what Hashem is. And that's what I want. I don't want anything else. He adds the word la'olam. It's not something today I have it, tomorrow it's lost. He was so anchored in this that this was not changeable. This was like his anchor. He did not go away from this place. In his Maamarim, in his Rishimis, he has a sefer on Tehillim, the Tzemach Tzedek, it's called Yoel. He explains, when a person gets in touch with the Yechidah Shebenefesh, the core of the soul, which is one, so then you know this is what you want, this is who I am. When I'm not in touch with this, then my passion is looking to attach itself to something. And then there's many, many distractions that grab me away from it. But David HaMelech says, I know exactly who I am. Kala she'edi u'levavi, tzur levavi v'chelki elikim, and it's la'olam. And everything else is going to be a betrayal of my authentic self, and therefore I'm going to always need more and more and more and more and more, because it's essentially pouring in water into a bottomless pit, like we spoke about, a cup that has a hole. You know, you could pour and pour and pour, but it's not really what you're looking for, so it's not going to fill you. The only thing that really fills is true dveikus, with truth, with authenticity, with oneness. Everything else may be powerful and potent, but it's a cover-up, it's a Mitzrayim. If it's a Mitzrayim, anything that puts me into Mitzrayim, whatever that means, is ultimately taking me away from reality. It's instead of seeing the Tzimtzum as a catalyst, as a springboard, as the arena in which I'm supposed to live and transform, it becomes my destination. Your jail is not your destination. You're there to break the shackles, to break the bars. And everything else is going to be then the Jew is called Oysin Ritzoyne Shel Makom, like the Maggid says. Interesting what the Maggid says here, what he's referring to. Gemara says in Maseches Brachas, Daf Lamed Hey, that in the first parsha of Kriyas Shema, it speaks about V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, you should love Hashem b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha. In the second parsha, it also says L'havas Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha. In the second parsha of Kriyas Shema, it says V'asafta d'gancha v'siroshcha v'yitzarecha. You should gather your own grain. Reb Shimon ben Yochai says, if people are going to go work and gather their own grain, what's going to be with Torah? You learn, and other people will gather your grain. Asks the Gemara, it says V'asafta d'gancha, you got to do it. So the Gemara says, "Kan be'ein oisin ritzon shalmakim, kan ba'osin ritzon shalmakim." The second parsha is when they're not doing Hashem's will. The first parsha they are doing Hashem's will. So the second parsha you have to gather your grain. Ask the Marsha, and the second parsha says, "V'hayim shamaya tishmol mitzvahs asher noichi mitzaveh eschem la'avos Hashem lekechem la'avdoi b'chol v'avchem b'chol nafshechem." That's called not doing His will. You're serving Him with your heart, your soul. You're loving Him. Then you get. That's called not. So the Maggid says it doesn't say b'chol moedecha. Doesn't say b'chol moedchem. The first parsha says b'chol moedach. That's called ein oisin ritzon. So ein oisin ritzon doesn't mean you're doing my will, you're not doing my will. Ein oisin ritzon shalmakim here means, like it says, oisin, you're making my will. Ein oisin ritzon shalmakim means that I'm not fully aligned with the will. Why? Because there's missing b'chol moedecha. What's the idea? The idea is, until I don't get in touch with my infinity, that's moedecha. Moedecha is the veriness, the infinity. I'm not truly aligned with my own will, which is truly one with Hashem's will. In other words, it's still a state of Mitzrayim, even though there's such a profound experience, but it's missing the b'chol moedecha. It's the infinity, the transcendence of tzimtzum, that is at the core of the soul. When David HaMelech says, when there's kol she'edu levavi, tzur levavi v'chelki lekim la'olam, then whatever somebody touches it in the world, what they're looking for is the truth of it, the pi Hashem in it. Everything in the world is the mouth of Hashem speaking it into existence. I want to identify that. What does it mean, identify it? I don't get stuck. I don't fall prey to the outer shell, to the encasement, to the klippah, to the cover. In myself also. In myself also, I could fall prey to the outer shell, or I could see the Pi Hashem Dibber, the inner energy of everything. The Mitzrayim is the way it looks on the outside. The Pi Hashem Dibber is the inner divine energy that creates it every moment. That's what I'm looking for. And when I'm looking for that, I'm not distracted by anything. So when I'm looking for Elikim, what's my heart? What's my chelik? What's my taiva? What's my bliss? I'm not going to fall prey to distractions that I anyway can't satiate because it's not really what I'm looking for. The only thing that will fill me up is the truth in every inyan, the Pi Hashem Dibber. And it's also in relationships with people. You know, when I look at somebody, you look at your child, for example, or you look at yourself, you look at your spouse, you look at anybody. You could see what they look like on the outside and you can get stuck in that. You look at this, you said this, you're doing this, you're dressed like this, your behavior is like this. And I could live in that space. Can you see the Pi Hashem Dibber? Can you see the divine energy that's vibrating in this person? If I'm not seeing it, I'm not really relating to you. Your external self is triggering my external self. How can I connect to you? I can only connect to you if I can go beyond the external self and see the Pi Hashem Dibber. Yes, I know it's easier said than done. Because when we sit down to do it, you know, there's all these triggers. It's called Mitzrayim. So Yitzias Mitzrayim happens, Yitzias sometimes has to happen every moment in life. It's like a choice. I sat down with you right now and I have to choose. Is this going to be an Egyptian relationship or is this going to be a soulful relationship? You know, is this going to be like negotiating with Egypt and everything that comes with it, geographically and existentially and spiritually? Or we're going to go out of Mitzarim Agvulim. If I'm in a cage and you're in a cage, so our cages connect. I trigger you and you trigger me, and good luck, you know? And we make believe we're talking. We're not even talking. My clip is talking to your clip. I'm not talking to you. You're not talking to me. I'm trying to stay safe. You're trying to stay safe. Or we can open that up, you know, let that go. That's Kol She'eri Levavi. Kol She'eri Levavi is that ability in a moment's call that he could melt. He had what to fall into. Of course, that's the natural. That's the always in yourself. That's the whole idea. Sa'olam nasam belibam. Yitzias Mitzrayim happens in me. Mitzrayim happens in me. I cannot change any other person. But when I say I can't change another person, it's a lie. I could change another person, but only one way. Through me. We say you can't change anybody else, you could change yourself. It's true, but it's also a lie. Of course you could change other people. But how? Not by changing them. By changing yourself. Life is a dance. The world is a dance. We're all in a dance. And when if you're dancing with somebody, when you start changing your position, they also have to change their position. You know what I mean? So when my dance starts changing, the people around me's dance, their postures their positions will also start moving around. It's like in chess. I make the move, you're now forced to make a certain move. I can't make you move anywhere in chess. I can't cause you to make a move in chess, but I could, but only through working on my pieces. Suddenly there's a different dance in this game, and you don't want checkmate. So that's the idea, right? That's what it says. The world lives in my heart. Right before this, he says in the pasuk, this is all Tehillim Kapitel Ayin Gimel. It's interesting that the Rebbe was explaining this pasuk because there's a takana of the Baal Shem Tov. I don't know if all of you know. It's a beautiful takana of the Baal Shem Tov that at a birthday, a person begins saying the new kapitel Tehillim of the year, and every day they say that kapitel till the next birthday. So for example, if I'm becoming 50, so I begin my 51st year, so kapitel Nun Aleph. When a person becomes 51, so I begin my 52nd year, kapitel. So to speak, when a person is born, we don't say Tehillim when we're born, right? But that would be the first kapitel. And then once I'm 1 year old, so now I finished Aleph, now I begin my second year is Bais, and so forth. So a person becomes Bar Mitzvah, you start Kapitel Yudal. This is a takana of the Baal Shem Tov.
Every day the same kapitel?
Every day for a year. Yeah. By Chabad Chassidim, it's a very well-known takana, everybody does it. It comes from the Baal Shem Tov. And some other places, I think. It's also very beautiful on an emotional level. Because every day when you're saying it, it's really, you stop, and it's actually, you're dedicating a kapitel to yourself. We're always saying Tehillim for everybody else. Saying Tehillim for this one. You're actually saying Tehillim, and not because there's a desperate chas v'sholem, everything could be going well, everything should go well. It's really to honor yourself. It's like you're honoring your age, and it also reminds you every day how old you are, which is not such a bad thing. It's interesting. Okay, there's another 3 months. It's like a good question. Like, am I living this age so I could go next year and become, if I'm not 50 when I'm 50, I can't be 51 when I'm 51. If I'm not 3 when I'm 3, I can't be 4 when I have to be 4. Then when I'm 4, I still have to be 3. Sometimes when I'm 60, I still have to be 4 years old. Huh? Hallel when you're 120. You can start Aleph. So in addition to that, we say the Tehillim divided in the month. So we go through the whole Tehillim just to make up for the youth. It's a very nice takana. It's honoring your existence. It's a beautiful takana of the Baal Shem Tov. Yud Aleph Nissan is the Rebbe's birthday. This is Tavshin Lamed Daled, 1974, so he started to say Kapitel Ayin Gimel. So in the Maamar, he was explaining the psukim of Kapitel Ayin Gimel. He didn't say it clearly, but it's obvious. So what does it say before Kala She'eri Levavi Tzur Levavi V'chalki Elakim La'olam? It's an interesting thing, Stam. The Rebbe once told somebody on Yechidus that the Baal Shem Tov's takana has a very, very early source. Why? The Gemara says that Kapitel Aleph and Bais from Tehillim are considered like one. So he says, if you go to Tehillim, the end of Ayin Bais, what's the last word? Kalu Sfilois David ben Yishai. How old was David HaMelech when he passed away? 70. So he finished Kapitel Ayin Bais. That was his kapitel. Then he passed away. Kalu Sfilos David ben Yishai. The Sfilos of David ben Yishai are finished. So, right, the Gemara says that Aleph and Bais are considered one capital. Ashrei Eish and Lamarak was considered one capital. No, so he was already saying, yeah, so it's a whole cheshbon why Aleph and Bais is connected by him. Yes, you start the next year.
So it's like a king's reign begins from day one.
Right.
If a person turns 70,
Yeah.
his 70th birthday, he starts saying 71.
Yeah.
In the 71st year.
Yeah. Yes, so the Gemara, it's a whole pilpul over here. Why over here? But the Gemara says that Aleph and Bais are considered one. So Lagabi this. No, just the first two kapitlach. So, yeah. So it's not like 72. It was like 71. Imagine if it was Ayin Aleph. So when he was 70, he said Ayin Aleph, and that's the end of it. Kalus Tfilas David Ben Yisha. So as an introduction to Kol Sheiri Levavi Tzur Levavi V'Chalki Lekim La'olam, the pasuk says before, Mili Bashamayim V'Imcha Lechafatzti Baretz V'Lachein Kol Sheiri Levavi. David HaMelech gives a prerequisite. What does he say? Who do I have in heaven? Mili means who is there for me in heaven? V'Imcha, with you Lechafatzti Baretz, I don't desire on earth. And therefore, Kol Sheiri Levavi Tzur Levavi V'Chalki Lekim La'olam. What's the introduction? What does it mean? Mili b'shamayim v'imcha lechafatzti baretz. Who do I have in heaven? It's like, who do I have in heaven? I don't have anybody in heaven. Rashi says there, even in heaven, I don't have any angels to choose. V'imcha, with you, I don't desire anything on earth. And therefore, kol she'eri levavi. What's David HaMelech saying? So the inyan bazak v'shamei v'kvoit kedu just had murat tzamach tzedek b'shayrish mitzvah tefillah. Tzemach Tzedek was the grandson of the Alter Rebbe. He has a sefer called Derech Mitzvah Sechem. Over there, there's a whole big maamar called Shayrish Mitzvah Tefillah, the root of the mitzvah of Tefillah. In that maamar, he brings bebiyud in Yana Avad the B'chinas Imcha Lo Chafatzti. He explains this pasuk V'Imcha Lo Chafatzti, and he says, Shekach haya nishma lashon mimayreinu v'Rabbeinu nishma se'edin b'dveikusa she'emer b'zeh lashon. We often tell this story, but here he actually brings the whole source. Tzemach Tzedek says that this is what we used to hear, this language. We used to hear from our teacher and Rebbe. He's referring it to his grandfather, his mother's father, the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya. Tzemach Tzedek grew up. His mother passed away when he was very young. He was a baby. He was 2 years old. So the Alter Rebbe raised him. She passed away. She made a condition with her father that he's going to raise her son. So he grew up in the bosom of the Alter Rebbe. So he says, this is the language that we used to hear from our teacher, b'dveikusse, when he was in a dveikus. And you see from here that it wasn't a one-time event. He says, Kach haya nishma. This was a regular event. That when the Alter Rebbe went into a dveikus means a state of heightened connection. You could say he was always in a dveikus, that's true. But sometimes within a dveikus itself, you're going like to a place like a transcendent state of consciousness, of complete oneness. So there were words that would come out of his mouth then. What were the words that would come out? And when he says B'zeh HaLashon, it means he's quoting. Sometimes you just repeat an idea, but he said B'zeh HaLashon, and that's why he goes from Hebrew to Yiddish. Because Alter Rebbe spoke in Yiddish. What did he say? So he said these words. Ich will ze gar nist. Ich will nit dein Gan Eden, ich will nit dein Olam Haba. Chuli, ich will mer nit as dich allein. Literal translation. Ich will, I want, see, ze, see, gar nist. See that I want nothing. I want you to see that I want nothing. Ich will ze means see, garnished, like we say garnished. What's this that I don't want? I don't want your Gan Eden. I don't want your Olam Haba. I want nothing. Ich will mer nit. I want nothing else. As dich, only you, allein, alone. You alone. This was the dveikus. And this is how the Tzemach Tzedek is explaining the pasuk, Mili b'shamayim v'imcha lechafatzti baretz. Where did the Alter Rebbe get this language from? His own soul, obviously, but this is what he saw in this pasuk in Tehillim. Who do I have in heaven? I don't have anybody in heaven. In other words, even heaven doesn't tempt me. And heaven, of course, is a metaphor for Gan Eden. Even heaven, who do I have in heaven? And who do I have on earth? So even Olam Haza, Olam Haba, Gan Eden, Eretz, Shemayim, Lo chafatzti, I don't have a desire. What do I want? I want only you. says, V'hine al pi hayadua shediburi shel admon hazaken haya meduyik betachlis hadik b'chol milu v'teva. B'frat shezeh haya b'dveikusoi. Tzorich lo haven diyu kaloshen shemedaiken boi gam ba'ataka sipur advarim. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, dein Olam Haba. Maya kavana bei sofes tevas dein. That the Alter Rebbe, every word was precise. His words were meduyak, were precise, with the ultimate precision, every word. You could see it also in his Tanya, in the Shulchan Aruch. It's like the Rambam, he was medayak in every word. Especially, he says, when he's talking during Dveikus. When you're talking in even on a regular Wednesday. But when you're talking in Dveikus, it means the soul is in a complete communion with its source. So every word is a priceless gem. So he's medayik here in one word. Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. Ich will nicht dein Olam Haba. He doesn't say, and often when people quote it, they miss out this word. I don't want Gan Eden, I don't want Olam Haba. No, I don't want your Gan Eden. I don't want your Olam Haba. That's what he was saying. What did he mean? Dein. And the Tzemach Tzedek quotes it this way. This dain brings out the depth of what he's saying. Shakavani lishlo lafilu ha'inyan de Gan Eden k'vi shenirgash bo shu Gan Eden shalach noisaf al klolos inyan ha'tainuk shebe Gan Eden. You can have Gan Eden, it's bliss. You don't feel that it's dein Gan Eden. It's your Gan Eden. Gan Eden can also become a distraction, can also become a jail. It's Gan Eden, it's bliss. You're looking for tainug, you're looking for schar, you're looking for reward. So Alter Rebbe says, I'm not looking for that. That's not the Chiddush. That's not the Chiddush. The Chiddush is ich will nicht dein Gan Eden. Even Gan Eden, where I feel it's your Gan Eden, it's not Stam Gan Eden. It's dein Gan Eden, also will nicht. What's the inyan? There's a metaphor of the Baal Shem Tov on another pasuk in Tehillim. It says in Tehillim, Tzadik Kuf Bais, the prayer of a poor man when he davens, when he envelops himself in davening, he pours out his siach. Siach is his conversation, his thoughts, his words to Hashem. As the Baal Shem Tov, every person who davens pours his words out to Hashem. Only an usher doesn't. If a person is not, if I'm davening, lifnei Hashem yishpich sicha. So the Baal Shem Tov says, he gives a famous metaphor. When you go into the chamber of a king, you cholim vertrunken werden und ausgehen. Ad shein negoshim klal al cheder. Shaboy nimtza melech malchem lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmai ki od lefnei ze yesh kvar kilyan hanefesh. Baal Shem Tov gives a very, very fascinating metaphor. He says it was a king, and the king, remember in the ancient world, the king was everything, right? You know, we don't relate to it so much, but like the monarch, the king was, the melech was, was it. You know, had full control. And this king, who was a benign king, a good guy, also unique in history, not to have a despot as a king, but a good person. One day, he designated that every subject of the country could come and see him and talk to him about whatever he wants. You want to talk about the pothole on your street? You can talk about it. You want to talk about the leak in your basement? Gesundheit. And this was a chiddush. Whoever saw the king? Yeah, whoever saw the king. It was a chiddush. So everybody came. The king said, you know, from 6 to 6, the doors are open, no bureaucracy, no red tape, no protection, no nepotism. Everybody, Chaim Yankel and Zelig and Schmedel, can all come. But the Baal Shem Tov said, as you entered the palace, the first floor was filled with the most delicious food in the world. People never saw so much food. They never saw such delicious food. And then the second floor had the greatest wines in the world. And then the third floor had the most impressive library in the world. And then the fourth floor had all this jewelry that people never saw, gems and diamonds, brilliantin, avonim tevis and margolis. And then you went to the next and you had musicians, the best musicians from the country. Most people, when they came, They were hungry. They never saw so much food, so they stayed. Stayed in the first. Why should you go further? Sigit. Another person, he finished eating, he went to drink. Okay, you never had so many drinks. Nobody saw so much wine, so much pina colada, so many whiskeys, so many screwdrivers. They sat and drank. It was a good fabrengen. Even if you managed to get out of there, you went to the next floor. Whoever saw so many books and manuscripts, if you were a scholar, you stayed there. And then you went up and you saw such jewelry, such brilliance, such dazzling glitter. And then if you had psachush and music, the Moshe says nobody ever made it. Nobody made it to the king. And then he says there was one ani, there was one ashnarer. He was illiterate. He was unsophisticated. He didn't even understand the richness of food. He was so simple. He was such a peasant. He came in. He was hungry, so he ate. How long did he eat? For 5 minutes. Drink, he didn't understand the sophistication of wine. He wasn't French. He was a peasant, so he went, he took a drink. Next. Library, he couldn't read. Jewelry, he never saw them to be impressed. Music, he didn't have a chush. So what did he do? He went to the king. And he stayed there a whole day. So one man ended up by the king. This is the Baal Shem Tov's mashal. Tefillah la'ani chiyatif lifnei Hashem yishpich sicha. Only the ani ends up lifnei Hashem. The rich man, he gets caught up in all of the richness of the palace. He never ends up lifnei Hashem. This is Baal Shem Tov's mashal. And with this, the Baal Shem Tov was trying to describe what life is. All sophistication is worthless if it doesn't bring you to simplicity. The magic of life is the simplicity. Lifnei Hashem yishpich sicha. The Baal Shem Tov said, the pshittis von ha'ish pashat rirt on pshittis ha'atzmos. The simplicity of the pashat ha'yit touches the simplicity of God. We become so sophisticated and intelligent, especially some of us Ashkenazic Jews who are taught to do gymnastics with our brain and become intellectual giants. He says, you never ever meet the king. You're stuck in the library. And the library is gewaldic. We're not being mavatal the library. And certainly not the wine, and not the jewelry, and not the music. It's amazing. And that's why it's a trap. If it wouldn't be amazing, it wouldn't be a trap. Taka amazing. But the melech you never touched. Tefillah la'ani chiyatif lifnei Hashem yishpich sicha. He doesn't know about kunsen. So the truth, by the ani, it's not so hard because he doesn't know anything else. By the usher, by the person who's a rich person, it's hard. And psychologically, we all know what that means. You know, we get caught up in so much sophistication, and that's Mitzrayim. It's Mitzrayim. You never meet the king. You never meet yourself. That panim, that encounter face to face, that vulnerability of the child to be able to look at you in the eyes and look at them in the eyes with that unconditional acceptance and connection, I may never have. So therefore I have all the other stuff. I'm a scholar, I'm brilliant, I'm rich, I'm powerful. But I never met the king.
What is the Baal Shem's metaphor inform that I'm meeting God on every level, even with the food
Very good.
because otherwise it seems very formalistic.
Good. You're right. A good question. Rabbi Yaakov is asking, why can't Hashem also be in the library and in the music and in the wine and in the food? That's the point. You're right. In order to bring it out, the Baal Shem Tov is describing it. And physically, the king is on the 7th floor and the 6th floor. Spiritually, what it means is go to the library, but don't get stuck in the library of the library. Enjoy the wine. Go eat. Go hear the music. But don't let it become a jail. This is not a protest against the richness of life. Who created music? Who created wisdom? Who created science? Who created physics? You sometimes read, some of you may read, at least one of you reads textbooks of science and physics, right? So you, like high school textbooks. They're describing DNA, okay? So I was once reading it. It's describing DNA. And I finished reading it, and I said, where is his spilus? Why is there no emotion? Where is his spilus? Are you like, it's almost like a computer analyzing it. Don't get stuck in the outer veneer. see the melech. You're right. In the mashal, it's very physical, so there's a polarity. The king is up there. So that's the nekuda. It's dafke the ani because of his simplicity, because he's devoid of all of the sophistication. He doesn't get deceived by distractions. He's looking for the real thing. I can get deceived because another person get deceived because you have so many interesting things about you. You know, you're an interesting person. You're an interesting person is only interesting if you're a person. You know when they say he's an interesting person? You're an interesting person. I'm interested in your interests if you're a person. And what does it mean to be a person? To be a person means that you can let go of everything, that you could be simple, that you are simple.
This only appreciates all those levels of sophistication.
So the ani has it because he doesn't appreciate anything else. He doesn't get stuck. The ashir, we're talking here rich in terms of wisdom and personality, he can get stuck, he can get carried away. Or to put it in other language, he can develop so many mechanisms that will substitute for the king. If I'm an ani, I can't develop anything else. I don't have anything else. I'll give an example. Somebody who has a very good brain, right? If he hasn't had attachment as a child, if he didn't have a good brain, he knows I need attachment. But if he has a good brain, he compensates. He says, you know what? I'll become a brilliant person and everybody will validate me. Somebody once told me he was working 18 hours a day in the office and he was barely home with his family. I said, why do you work so hard? You don't have parnasa? He says, I have parnasa. So I said, why do you work so hard? So he says, because I need to prove to everybody in the office how valuable I am. I want them to know that without me, this company is not functioning. So we create substitutes. So if I have a good brain, my brain can become the mechanism through which I live life. But you can't live life with a brain. It's like eating a donut with your brain. You can't eat a donut with your brain. You have to eat a donut with your taste buds. You can't live life with your brain. You live life by living life with your soul, with your heart, with your passion. But if I couldn't do that, so my brain becomes a substitute for that. So now your blessing becomes your jail. And that's what we do. We take our skills, we take our richness, and instead of being a vehicle for connection, it becomes a substitute for connection. You understand what I'm saying? Don't use your brain so much to understand what I'm saying. Don't use your brain. It's not good. If you use your brain, it's not good. The brain becomes the brain is a channel. It's a gift, but it's a channel. It's a gift. It could become a jail. Now I become brainy. Everything is brain. Every relationship is intellectualized. I have a good computer, and the computer says, do this, don't do this, connect this way, say this, say that. There's no person. And there's a reason for it. I couldn't have authentic connection. I didn't get that unconditional love. I can't trust me. I can't trust somebody else. I don't even know who I am. So everything is with a brain. And it's perfect because the brain is nice. And for other people who don't know you, it's gewaldic. You have a perfect life. Only your soul knows how trapped it is in a jail.
The knowing of consciousness is our biggest, can be our biggest.
Of course. The knowing of consciousness.
The consciousness of being conscious.
The consciousness of being consciousness can be the greatest trap. I remember there was a Yid, a Chassidic, came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and he said, Wie fühlt sich der Rebbe? In Yiddish, how's the Rebbe feeling? Wie fühlt sich der Rebbe? So he said, as I right away, he said, Am fühlt sich ist schon nicht gut. So der Schwer hat gesagt, als ein gesunder Mensch fühlt sich nicht. He said, Wie fühlt sich der Rebbe? In Yiddish, it's how does the Rebbe feel himself? That's how you say it in Yiddish. So he said, if I feel the self, it means I'm not feeling good. In other words, your question is already a problem. And he said, my father used to say that a healthy person doesn't feel himself. If I'm feeling my pinky right now, what does it mean? It means there's pain here, there's a scratch. If I'm feeling my head, what does it mean? The more you feel yourself, the more sick you are. When a body is completely healthy, it doesn't feel itself. Why not? I should feel myself. No, don't feel yourself. The reason is, Chassidus explains, because when a healthy body means it's aligned with the soul. If it's aligned with the soul, it doesn't feel itself because it's a conduit for the soul. That's what bittul is. Self-consciousness doesn't mean I'm healthy. It means I'm sick. I walk into a room and all I can do is, Do they like me? They don't like me. Where should I sit? What are they thinking? What am I thinking? Do I look stupid? No, I don't look stupid. No, I'm a good guy. What's wrong? I came late. What's wrong with coming late? You understand? What should I do? Do I do it? And this narrator doesn't exist. Everybody's smiling. Everybody relates to this. Yeah, ich bin nicht der einzige Meshuggah that has self-consciousness. I'm glad I'm not the only Meshuggah in this world. The 2-year-old who runs through your dining room Friday night without a pamper, and everybody says he's so cute. What's the mila? He's not thinking, I'm without a diaper, it's a pasnish. I'm a pasnish. What do I look like? My tie is straight, it's not straight. My glasses are nice, they're not nice. What do you think about me? I'm overweight, I'm not overweight. I have a long nose, I have a short nose. I wasn't thinking about that one actually, but I'm sure that's also an equation by some people. The point is, so what's wrong? I'm thinking about myself. You're not thinking about yourself. I'm in a prison. Myself is not free. I can't be alive because the I is trying to figure out who it is. It's detached. Alive means you're attached, you're connected. There's no life without connection. When we say, I am my own person, it's the worst thing to say that. What do you mean you're your own person? It's like telling a refrigerator or a computer, let me unplug you so you can be your own person. The computer says, do me a favor, don't unplug me. The refrigerator, don't unplug me. We're all plugged in. There's a source of life. We're channels for electricity. When I'm plugged in, I'm a channel. The moment it's me, it means I'm sick, I'm unplugged, and I'm looking for energy, I'm looking for life. And that's what self-consciousness is. It's different than self-awareness. Awareness of self is not self-consciousness. Awareness of self in a good way means the awareness of my role as a channel. That's what self-awareness is a good thing. When we talk about self-consciousness, it means that I'm stuck in figuring out the self. Now we have it, we all have that. Since the Eitz Hadas means the tree of self-consciousness. That's Eitz Hadas. When Adam and Chava ate from the tree, they weren't just eating an apple, as King James decided, or an esrog, or a grape. It means something much deeper. It means they ate the fruit that made them feel self-conscious. So of course, the first thing is, we're not wearing clothes. Let's get a suit. We're not wearing clothes. Your 1-year-old, 2-year-old doesn't mind not wearing clothes. Why? Because he didn't eat from the Eitz Hadas yet. At some point, we eat from the Eitz Hadas. It's called the ego. So now I have to protect it. So in every nekuda in life, it could become a distraction. So it's not that we don't want the gifts. We want the gifts. But my brain is a tool. It's not a destination. My heart is a tool. My wisdom, every talent you have, it's one of the talents of the king. So that's what the Baal Shem Tov says. Dafke the ani lifnei Hashem yishpech. He made it into the king. He has that utter simplicity. As somebody once said, "Sinish tazei pashet to zayna pashet yid." But really, sizei pashet. Really, it's pashet. The self-consciousness says sinish pashet. What am I going to be, a simple person? Yeah. The bittul of the ani becomes his grace. He becomes his grace. He's not distracted. Unless he's distracted by the fact that he's not distracted. Look, I'm not distracted. I don't have an ego. I'm enlightened. I'm Mr. Enlightened. I went on a trip and I'm better than everybody else because I know everybody's in security and I am emancipated at last. And sometimes that's the worst ego in the world. You know why? Because it actually has some truth to it. You may actually know a lot of things or feel a lot of things, and it could become sometimes the biggest trap. The biggest trap is when I think I left a trap and now I'm good and everybody else is crazy. I'm the only normal person. So here we come to the nekuda. So v'zeh tefillah la'ani chiyatif shetefillah sa'ani hi sheyiye etzlo ya'iyin lefnei Hashem yishpech sicha. What does the ani daven for? This is what he davens for. Tefillah la'ani chiyatif lefnei Hashem yishpech sicha. He's davening, don't let me get distracted by anything else. In other words, she'ein tzarech habchina de b'shamayim Gan Eden afilu loy kefi shenikra b'yishu shalach dain Gan Eden. Ve'ein tzarech gam lo'elam haba shun aylam yoysim Gan Eden ve'afilu lo'elam haba kefi shenikra b'yishu shalach dain aylam haba. Ki gam dein Gan Eden v'dein olam haba hem ra Gan Eden olam haba v'lo yatzmusay mamish. So now we'll understand why the Alter Rebbe said dein, yours. You have a Gan Eden that I don't feel it's dein. It's like I'm looking for schar, I'm looking for reward, I'm looking for the ultimate bliss. Obviously, that's not what he wanted. But he said, even dein Gan Eden, it's yours, it's a manifestation of yours. It can also be, I can get stuck over there because it's beautiful. Because it's dein Gan Eden. I know that it's the king's music. I know that it's the king's treasures. I know that it's the king's wisdom. And that's where I get stuck. He says, even dein Gan Eden, the real ani lifnei Hashem yishpich sichai. Even if I know that all the other parts of the palace are also an extension of his richness. But I want lifnei Hashem yishpich sichai. That's why he said dein, yours. Because even dein Gan Eden, it's not atzmusei mamish, it's not the core, it's not the essence. Uritzoynai hu ich will menit as dich, I want you. But then he adds one more word, alein. I want you. What's you alone? You is you. Umeisif oy teves alein, hainu muhusev atzmusei kefishu ba'ofen de ein oid milvadoi alein. Usually we tie ich will menit as dich alein, I want you alone, not anybody else. He already said, I want you. What's alein? I want you the way you're alone. Ein oid milvadoi. That's what I want. I want you in the essence, the way you are alone, ein oid milvadoi. And that's dafkin atzmus where mamash ein oid milvadoi, where everything is one, everything is you.
But it's again an impossibility. He's alone there. You cannot be with him because he's alone.
Excellent question. If he's alone, so I'm going to be there. And that brings it all out. That you're part of that ein oid milvadoi. That at your deepest core, you are that ein oid milvadoi. You got it? That's the whole vart. He's asking a valid question. If it's you alone, so it's not me. It's you, it's not me. So obviously you can't get there. I want to be with you in a room when you're there alone. Sorry. Excellent question. I want to be with you when you're alone. Well, sorry, if I'm alone, you can't be there. Oh, that's who I really am. This is what the soul really is. This is what Alter Rebbe was saying. I want it because this is who I am. Anything else is not who I am. Who are you in your deepest space? You are dich alein. There's no separateness. In your deepest core, you are the ein oid milvadoi. Because ein oid milvadoi doesn't exclude you, it includes you. That's what ein oid milvadoi doesn't mean. There's nothing besides him, and therefore what happens to all of us? I don't know, jump in the lake. But the lake is also him. Okay, find another lake. That's not the part. Ein oid milvadoi means really ein oid milvadoi. What do you mean? What about me?
In a way, you melt into
You melt into ein oid milvadoi, and that's the ultimate you. It's not like, but I want to be creative. What do they say? You have to make your mark on the world. You don't want to make your mark on the world. I want to make a mark on the world when I'm looking for something. I'm looking for to justify my separateness. So maybe you could give me a Nobel Prize. I could make my mark on the world. In the deepest soul, you want Hashem to make his mark on the world. And you are that. You are an extension of that. Paradoxically, it makes you the most creative person because you're creator. Creativity comes from creator. Creativity. When you are the creator, you're the most creative person. When you're plugged in, fully, the electricity will be channeled through you. That's not the issue. This is not an invitation to self-deprecation and self-loathing. On the contrary, it's the absolute liberation of any burden of self that actually distracts you from being who you really are. Nobody forced Alter Rebbe to say this. He wasn't saying this to get Gan Eden. I'm going to say such a good thing, I'll get more Gan. The whole point is, even Gan Eden could be a trap. Even dein Gan Eden is not the Nekuda.
Isn't it a trap
Avada. He's saying Einoid Mulvada includes the trap and the ego and Mitzrayim. Also Einoid Mulvada.
So while you at it, ride the joy.
So the moment I realize that my ego and my trap and my Mitzrayim are part of Einoid Mulvada, it's not a trap and it's not an ego and it's not Mitzrayim. You're right. You're right. And what that means practically is, when I realize that my ego and my trap and my Mitzrayim and my coping mechanisms are my journey in order to work through, it's taka not an ego and it's not a trap and it's not Mitzrayim. And that's the point, that I don't have to dismiss any part of the palace. I don't say the king is on the 8th floor and the first floor is garbage and the second floor is garbage. No. The second floor and the third floor are a preparation. They're the way up. But don't stop. Don't get stuck. And this is the Alter Rebbe's deepest safety. This is because mili b'shamayim v'imchalei chafatzti. I don't have anything in heaven. Even heaven doesn't talk to me. Because it can also be a trap. How can heaven be a trap? It could be a bigger trap than earth. Much bigger. A real person, Olam Haza, what, potato chips is going to take you? What's black and white? A big building, so you'll have another $3 million. So what's going to happen? Gan Eden, that's a trap. For the Alter Rebbe to say, ich will nicht Olam Haza, okay, big deal, I understand. For me, it's a big chiddush to say, ich will nicht Olam Haza, because ich will ja Olam Haza. For the Alter Rebbe, probably wasn't such a big chiddush. But Olam Haba, oh, that's different. Olam Haba, that's a good trap. It's a holy trap, it's heaven. Mili b'shamayim, that even heaven won't tempt me. Why? Because ich such atzmos, I want you. And what's you? I want you in the core, in the essence, without anything. Gan Eden is a radiance that's already condensed in order for the soul to experience it. And therefore it could be a trap.
That's it. And then you're invited to the king's room. You make the king's room. And then the king has to hug you or...
Yeah.
You can't make the... You can't...
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The amazing thing is, like, a person can ask himself, who am I to be with you? And actually the answer is, who am I? If he finds in himself that godliness, that he realizes he can be with.
Yeah.
So who am I is the biggest, when we define ourselves
Yeah.
as anything
Yeah. Yeah.
and not nothing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Rabbi, I feel a little bit stuck on this wording over here. It seems like it's words that you go from one level to another level to another level. Isn't everything one? So therefore, even eating the potato chips is like being all the way in the top floor. It's all the same.
You're right. If everything is really one, so even when I'm eating the potato chip, it's that oneness. You're right. But we have to be honest with our process. In other words, milmaila lamata, if I look at it from a bird's eye view, it's true. But if I'm stuck, right, in a narcissistic moment, or in a moment of anger, or in a moment of terrible frustration, or in a moment of self-loathing or emotional disassociation, I could easily fool myself by saying it's ein oid milvadai and start worshiping my jail. And that's where it's very important to unblend, to realize this is a moment of stuckness and it's painful. One day I'll realize that this stuckness, if I remained conscious and honest and vulnerable and authentic, this was ein oid milvadai. God was in that stuckness. But it will only happen if I have the vulnerability to work it through. So you're right. At the end of it, it's all one. But for me to be able to get to that place, I have to acknowledge the fragmentation, the brokenness, and the pain. If I don't honor the pain, I'm not going to find the oneness behind the pain. Because really what I'm saying is that the pain is not part of it. So it's not ein oid milvada. Ein oid milvada means you have to honor every stage because that stage is part of it. There's no spiritual bypassing, because spiritual bypassing actually means I can't deal with this. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to make believe it doesn't exist. I'm going to repress it. I'm going to suppress it. So paradoxically, in order to be able to reach that space of oneness, all the parts have to be part of it. And that means the obstacles themselves need to be honored in the sense that this is what I need to work through now. This is where I am. I'm in pain.
Can you be alive at that?
Huh?
Can you be alive at that moment?
That's a good question. Can you be alive at that moment? You could be vulnerable and authentic at that moment, and that's life. No, he's saying, can you be alive? I can be vulnerable and authentic where I am, and in authenticity, there's always life. In other words, I'm being open. I'm not going to allow the blockage to take over here.
Only, I mean, say, can you be human? A human person?
Yeah, only human. That's the beauty.
Yeah, I think because...
Alive. You're not there anymore because the Hashem is just becomes one with everything.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's where Ratzei and Shuv comes in. There's a pain over there. The pain is that once a person even starts tasting this, there's this inner temptation of letting go of everything. But then there's something even deeper, and that is realizing that I'm a shliach. Shluchas Adam K'maisai, and that Hashem wants me here. The tzimtzum is not a game, it's a mission. And to abandon that mission is really abandoning my deepest connection and relationship. Yes, there's a part of me that just wants to cease to be. And in fact, it's the truest part of the soul. It doesn't want to be, because being is painful. And yet, the soul goes deeper and says, yeah, the Rebbe has a lashon l'kudatayra. The Gemara has an expression, Dayoy la'evet sheyeheki Rabbi. The Evet doesn't have to be more than the master. So the Rebbe is like this: a Jew wants to cease to be, but then you say Dayoy la'evet sheyeheki Rabbi, and Hashem made a world. He wanted did it b'tachtayim. Mekst oich machna did it b'tachtayim. He went out of his infinity to create a world. You're also allowed to go out of your infinity. So that's where, despite the pain, the person comes back. And because knowing that that's the mission, so there's a simcha there, there's a joy.
Is it possible that the feeling, is it possible the feeling is not horizontal living, but vertical living, like it's everything is one?
Excellent question. Do we live horizontally or vertically, right? So I think we want to live vertically, but in order that the vertical relationship shouldn't exclude any part of life, we have to be able to experience the horizontal dimension as well. Yeah, Ratzah is the vertical and that flow, and then Shoiv is that ability to be horizontal, and Ufaratz Tayam of Aked Matzafain of Anegba. South and north and east and west, right, are horizontal. And then there's Shamayim and Eretz, that's vertical. Like by Echad, right, it says Echad, when by the Ches, you think about the seven heavens and earth, and the Dalet is the four sides of the world. So there's both elements.
Life is not linear.
Right, right. The experience of this is needless to say. Well, actually, when the Rebbe said this piece, he started to cry pretty intensely, because the experience of this is it's the ultimate liberation, and it's the ultimate bliss. But the depth of the liberation and bliss is that there's not even an iota of ego. In other words, even Dein Gan Eden, which is pretty godly, it's your Gan Eden. I'm not stuck in the palace because of my ego. I'm stuck in the palace because it's your palace. Right? It's Dain Gan Eden. It's Dain Olam Haba. I'm not impressed by Olam Haba because the kugel. I'm not looking for the kugel of Olam Haba. I'm looking for Dain Olam Haba. But it's the way I could relate to you in a way that nourishes my soul. And that's what Olam Haba is. Olam Haba is a place where souls are nourished. Dich Alein, nobody is nourished because it's Alein. It's Alein. It's Einoid Mulvada. So it's letting go of everything. Even letting go of your spiritual self, of your transcendent self. And the Alter Rebbe says, and this is what a neshama is. This is what a neshama is. You know, we talk about the challenge between the physical and spiritual, between ego and selflessness, between narcissism and avodas Hashem. That's not what we're talking about here. Dain Gan Eden is not narcissism. Dain Gan Eden is not selfish. But for the soul, it's a betrayal. It's a betrayal. And why could Alter Rebbe say this? The only reason he could say this is because he felt that Hashem felt like that about him. If he wouldn't feel that Hashem feels that about him, he wouldn't be able to say this to Hashem. You can't. If I could give an example of people, you can only tell somebody, my deepest desire in life is to be one with you, if you feel that they're there, that they feel that way. If you're going to get a response like, I'm not even sure I'm interested in you, that emotion is going to go dead very, very fast. The Alter Rebbe felt that Hashem feels like that about him. Ich will mehr nicht als dich allein. Two Shabbosim ago, Shabbos Parshas, I was in Tazria. They had there it was like 110 couples, around more than 200 couples that came. These are parents, very, very religious, but not religious Nusach Monsey. It's religious, Yerushalayim, Mea Sha'arim, B'nai Brak. It's and next level, and a very Chassidic Olam. Gan Eden, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to give names. Here, even really, really, very, very, Yerushalayim, B'nai Brak, from Olam. And what brought them together, that they have a child or children who left Yiddishkeit, or are struggling with a lot of different things, and they came. Now, right when I came and I understood the courage of these people, it's not like America. The courage that they could come, and everybody knows that they're there. And some people, Rosh Yeshivas and Mashpiyim, and there was some Gaboyim of Chashidic Rebbes over there. Like it was courageous of them to be there. So somebody asked a question, Erev Shabbos. They have a daughter. This person has a daughter, and the daughter is struggling for years. And he developed this perspective that thankfully has been embraced by many people in the last years, that you don't throw out your child from the house and you don't sever your connection. On the contrary. And he said, but he's looking for the results. He doesn't see any results. He's close and close and close to her, and he gives her and then shows love, and his wife does, but ad masait, like when does the insurance policy expire? Like, you're telling me that's the path, and he's, what's the tachlis? What's the tachlis? There's no tachlis. He wants to see the product. He wants to see the transformation. That was the question.
He did his part, right? Loving him.
Right.
But he doesn't see results.
And he says, and it's hard for him. It's It's emotionally painful. So they asked me to answer it, and I didn't know. I realized it. I felt what he was. I felt it. I understood what he was saying very deeply, and I needed to. I wanted to say something. It came into my head. This Maamar, this word from the Alter Rebbe, and I said it over. And I said, I want to apply this to our life right now. What does this look like? It's good words and it's geschmack and it's inspiring. What does it look like? What does it look like on the ground? Tell me what it looks like. What's the Alter Rebbe teaching us? What do you really want? What does a soul really want? that there's mamish no strings attached. I want to be completely one with you, dich allein, without any need for any validation and even experience of it, because that itself is a distraction of the truth. So I want to be a complete channel for you, and only there will I be happy. Why will only there I be happy? Because the deepest happiness and bliss of the soul is when I'm not there. That's the deepest bliss, because you're one. When we talk about, I want to be happy, I want to be bliss, I'm already stuck. No, you don't want to be happy, you don't want to be blissful. It's not, you don't know yourself. Because I think I'm separate, I want to be at bliss. The real bliss is that you're not looking for that. And paradoxically, that's the deepest bliss, because that's who you are. There's no bliss without being who you are. So I told him, I said, you're an Erlich Yid, you're a good Jew. You're still looking for Gan Eden. And you want your child to be in Gan Eden, and you want to be in Gan Eden, you want a house in Gan Eden. And I get it. And I'm not choshe that it's selfish. Dein Gan Eden. But your child is giving you an opportunity to actually go much deeper. To actually be one. That's what your child is giving you an opportunity. It's a different opportunity. And it's an opportunity that in order to experience, you have to let go of everything else. You have to let go of every last vestige of ego, including your spiritual ego. I said, other people, I'm nice to my kid, I'm loving, and 3 years later, we go down the chuppah to a Lakewood family, and we live happily ever after, and now he finished the first cycle of Daf Yomi. And if you would have seen him when he's 17, and they lived happily ever after. And everybody should experience that bliss. I said, your child is giving you a bigger gift, a much bigger gift. And the bigger gift is, Gan Eden, look, I was good, I was selfless, I got rid of my ego and I got Gan Eden. You did not get in Gan Eden. You don't have Gan Eden in your house, you have Gehenna in your house. But your Gehenna, what you're calling Gehenna may be Atzmos. You have Hashem. It's Him. It's His Gehenna. Your Gehenna may be much more Gan Eden than other people's Gan Eden. There was once a Chassid, he once said, I would rather be in Gehenna, the company of certain people, than in Gan Eden with the company of other people. You have to be a chassid to say that, you understand? Another person wouldn't say such a thing. You understand? That's the nekuda. The question is, where's the emes? If the emes is in Gehenna, I'm fine. What's the in the spot? Think Hashem doesn't know Gehenna? He made Gehenna also. Who do you think made Gehenna? You think some company made Gehenna? Some people's Gehenna is much deeper than other people's Gan Eden. Because they don't go away from the truth. They don't go away from the Nekuda. So I told his father, I don't have an answer for you. I know. I don't know how it's going to happen. I hope everything works out amazingly. But the despair that you're having is because you're still living in detachment. You don't have to. Let go. It's really letting go, allowing, I'm going to say it a little dramatically, let go for the need of being detached. And then your Gehenna will be more blissful than other people's Gan Eden. I think that's what it means practically. Practically, in very simple English, it means when you're connecting to this person, really, what does Hashem really want? That's it. In the moment. Not about results. Not what my family is going to look like. All my friends are marrying over their kids to the best families in the world. Why am I the only loser? Okay, and even if I graduate from that. But what's the tachlis? All these words are Gan Eden words, and they're good words. They're holy words. We cherish them. It's good to make a cheshbon hanefesh about Gan Eden. It's not a bad thing. The Alter Rebbe didn't say there's no Gan Eden. Of course there's Gan Eden. But the biggest Gan Eden, you know what the biggest Gan Eden is? Not to think about Gan Eden. That's the biggest Gan Eden. Huh? You're waiting, you know, what's a tachlis? She's giving me so much pain. I don't know what the tachlis is. Why are you looking for a tachlis? Just connect.
You're saying accepting your Gehenna is actually better than...
Accepting your Gehenna as divine and truth is much deeper than many people's Gan Eden, because Gan Eden could be a place of separateness. It's a place where we sit and enjoy life ultimately. That means you're separate. What do you have to be? You don't need, give yourself a gift. This daughter is giving you a gift. And it's in each of our lives. It's a very, very deep nakuda. Not to go away from the oneness even for a moment. Not to go away from that. And not to go away from the moment I'm starting to say, but what's going to be, and my family, and me, and this, and the nachas. And even if the nachas is not selfish, it's good nachas. You're not a selfish person. He wants his daughter to give a good life. He's not looking for in Yerushalayim. They should say that he's a good father. You have Dutch fathers too. That's Taka Gehenim. That's Kipshuta Gehenim. You have narcissistic nachas and shidduchim, and maybe it's also not narcissistic. You want good shidduchim for your family. I get it. We all want that. These are human emotions. There's normal human emotions. I want to fit in. Yeah, I want to feel like a successful father. And I also care about my kids. I want my daughter to have a good life. But it can all become a distraction. Mili b'shamayim v'imcha lechavatzi baretz is to make no cheshbon besides what is the ratzon of Hashem right now at this moment, without any strings attached, including rewards and paradise and schar, and even the feeling that I did the right thing. You don't even need that, because that will also be a distraction. And your daughter is challenging you and helping you become a real Jew. And I told him, maybe it's possible you're looking for her to be connected to God, and maybe she's trying to tell you, Tati, maybe you have to become connected to God. Maybe. Maybe you have to become connected to God. She's saying it maybe through tough language. Our kids always, they do, what's it called? The school of hard knocks. It's called the school of hard knocks. She's not using this, she's not using this holy language, but maybe that's what she's telling you. And in every person's life, that's how it's translated. And that's called Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's Yitzias Mitzrayim. That means I'm not living in Mitzrayim. Not that there's no Mitzrayim, there is a Mitzrayim. So now we go back to Reb Nuchim's question, right? You say everything is one. When I touch this space, everything becomes one. Then I don't have to let go of anything. Because if I'm not looking for results, if I'm not looking for control, even spiritual control and spiritual results, then everything is it. Everything is its result. If I'm looking for results and control, so then I need this and I need that and I need that, it has to look this way and look way. Gan Eden has to have a nice ambiance. So we have to put in an air conditioner. We have to get rid of, the smells. But if I'm looking for dichalein, where is that? It's here. It's right here, right now, in this moment. It's a moment of pain, and it's a moment of emptiness, and it's a moment of difficulty, and it's a moment of challenge. Was wertnis Paul? You think God is afraid of your pain? You understand? If I'm looking for Gan Eden, then it's a process. If I'm looking for dichalein, it's not a process. It's an event. It's here. It's now. Yeah. Yeah.
This is the definition of Lishma. This concept is all the definition of serving Hashem Lishma.
Yeah.
This is what Lishma means. A person serves Hashem for the Gan Eden. It's not the ultimate
Gan Eden is not Lishma. Gan Eden is I want reward. It's called the Kabbalah Pras. The Chiddush in this Maamar is that even Gan Eden could be Dein Gan Eden, and it's still not. Dein Gan Eden is already much deeper. I'm not looking for Gan Eden. I'm looking for you in Gan Eden. That's the Chiddush in this Maamar. I'm not looking for Gan Eden. I'm looking for you in Gan Eden. Dein Gan Eden means you. I want your Gan Eden. But I want you in Gan Eden. It's not, it's not Gan Eden. So you say, so it means you don't go to Gan Eden? Not you don't go Gan Eden. Gan Eden is not a distraction. Gan Eden is also Einoid Movade. We have nothing against Gan Eden, by the way. You come out of the shir. What did Rabbi Why say today? He said it's much better to go to Gehenna than Gan Eden.
Yes.
So that's true. I said that because some Gehennims are much better than other Gan Edens. That's the emes. But that's not the Nekuda. We have nothing against Gan Eden, as long as it's not a distraction. And all real relationships happen in this moment. Because what's a real relationship? Kala she'eri levavi. That's the hemshech. Once you let go of Gan Eden, now we could connect. Now we could connect. As long as there's an agenda, there's no connection. I'm in my agenda and you're in your agenda. Even if it's holy agendas. The oizgus, the oizgang, the letting go of everything could happen only where? In dichalein. Mili b'shamayim v'mchalei chafatzti ba'adet b'meila kol ha'she'eri levavi. So now my heart just lets go completely. What is it? It melts away into oneness. And I don't need anything else, because at that point there's no I. And this is what a neshama looks like. The whole vart is not the Alter Rebbe was the Alter Rebbe, so b'meila he was on a higher level. We're not talking about levels. Not that he was on a higher level. I'm not on a higher level. I like potato chips. It's true, he was on a higher level, no question, a completely bein aroich. But that's not the nekuda. That's not his nekuda. He's on a high level. We'll eat kugel and have a hamantash here in the kitchen or soup. And he was looking for atzmos. He's describing the quintessence of the soul. That's what he's describing. Whose soul? Everyone's soul. You can't be thankful enough for this, huh? You can't be grateful enough for a person who is a channel for such truth. You can't buy this for money, you know what I mean? Even Warren Buffett's money can't buy this. Im yitain ishes kol hoin beisoy ba'ava boys yavuzu loy. It says in Shashida. If somebody is going to offer all their money in order to take away this love, they're going to denigrate him. Boys yavuzu loy. Okay, we'll take a little break here. Bis the next verbringen. Be'ezer Hashem, Monday morning we'll finish the Maamar. Everybody have a beautiful
I tell you a true story.
Just give me a moment.
invited to a party of a billionaire, 50th anniversary, and he rented the Henry, I think the 8th palace in England, next to London.
Yeah.
So, story of Baal Shem Tov, I saw it and with my eyes. The first floor was gorgeous, just invitations. The second floor was, well, all the frescoes and essence were there. And the next, the palace goes like this, like narrows, where the king meets like important people, more important people, wise VPs, and then his bedroom, and then the last room. You know what last place? I went to the end because everybody gets stuck there. I was curious what it is. The last room was his toilet, was the bucket. So, and now when you were telling me the story, I said, you know what? Why the bucket? And it must be, the moshel must be correct. So I know why the bucket, because that's where the excrements is all part of that truth. So that's why you don't cover it.
Very good.
So I saw it with my own eyes. The Henry VIII, the last room was that.
Wow. Bais HaKisei.
Very
good. And nobody goes there.
Nobody goes there. I was the only one went through the whole party. I because I was so fascinated with the palace. It was just the people were stuck in champagne, and there was a dance party.
Fascinating how the Baal Shem Tov was tough as this. Hi. How are you?
Good morning.
Last night, my mother fell asleep with one of your shears. I also say
Oh, thank you. I'm honored.
So,
Tell your mother, Tzaddik. Tell your mother that I'm happy that I helped put her to sleep. Sometimes it's a big schus to help a Jew sleep.
so
Wow, amazing.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, it's true. I understand the pain of that Eid personally.
Yeah.
And it's so excruciating. Sometimes you say even stupid things. I wish I would never happen, like this and that.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, accepting it. It's actually that's the pain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to go through, just to be able to.
Exactly.
Wow.
Isn't the ultimate